Greatness shows up after you're tired. Let's say it one more time, man. Greatness shows up after you're tired, not when you're tired. And breakthroughs don't happen until you reach your breaking point. Been there many times, man, at that place I didn't want to go on, and I realized that strength can't develop until your strength is gone. You got to keep pushing, because character and courage is developed or lost when you decide to keep going or to give up. You see, that's the point. You got to stop, and you got to realize that's your breakthrough coming right there, because when others that are around you won't, you will be the one that goes ahead. Somebody has to step up and go a little bit farther. Is that somebody you? How many says that's me? I want to go a little farther.
Well, hello welcome
back
to FurtherMore.
We are so excited that you have chosen to join us, because you could be anywhere in the world you wanted to be right now.
But you chose to be with us, and we get the honor and the privilege of being with you. So welcome to FurtherMore. We appreciate you, and we're going to get right into it tonight, because we've got a ton to cover. Remember, the three big prisons that we always talk about, just as a reminder that hope defeats big church and health. It defeats this thing called big medicine, and freedom triumphs over big government. And as promised from last time we were together, we talked about answering the question, what in the world, or what out of this world, is causing these things called clots? We're going to talk about some symptoms and some studies. Answer the question, is lifestyle involved? I believe it is, obviously. And then we're going to talk about our own investigation. So let's get right into it, sweetheart, into these studies we're talking about. We've got 3 studies to reference here. So let's go ahead and dive into those things, because I really want people to kind of see what is out there. This first one,
1, 2, 3.
You see, fibrous clots form matter in blood after COVID jabs. Is there a way to detox? Thoughts?
Absolutely. You know, the solution to pollution is dilution. Just stop the incoming assault of the standard American diet. That's going to take inflammation down right away.
So the body does have a way to detoxify. Again, we don't understand it all, but never we will. And we won't understand it all. But the bottom line is, we're going to show you the best way in our practice all the time. This is what we do every day to get the body's systems to perform better all the way around, including the detox system, including the immune system, etc. Next one, CDC confirmed post-vaccination death from blood clotting 2 weeks before alerting public. Does that surprise you?
Not necessarily, no.
The CDC, as I like to refer to it, the Centers of Disease Out of Control and Lack of Prevention. I say that, look, I'm not bashing the government. I'm not bashing that at all. I'm saying that our health has suffered for the last 50 years. We have not gotten better.
In America?
In America and around the world. We've exported disease.
Yes, so we're growing diseases faster than we're growing people.
Wow. Think about that for a moment. Clots hidden from us? Imagine that. Okay. What's up next? Study 3 is a college student who suffered blood clot after COVID-19 vaccine granted reprieve from mandate following outcry. I would bet he did get a reprieve from that. College students suffering blood clots after COVID-19. Could that be tied directly to the COVID-19 vaccine, or could that be other things that are involved?
It can absolutely be other things that are involved. You got to consider genetics. What kind of clotting factors are actually missing in that system or upregulated? You got to consider the nutritional protocol. Even too much exercise can be an inflammatory process if an individual actually isn't restoring their system after they are out playing their sport.
And sadly, there has been student athletes, high school athletes, that have been affected significantly by these clots. Again, the jury's out on what are the main causes, culprits, etc. There's a variety of things we bring up to you, but we're going to go to a story right now about a young man who literally suffered and lost a year of competition because of clots. Check this out.
Welcome back. It's hard to describe the level of excitement high schoolers feel when the start of the season draws near. Yet imagine all of that build come crashing down on you. That's the unfortunate reality Wasion's Caden Clymer had to tackle.
He deserves this.
An impact on the field, never a doubt.
I know.
But to do so without pads on, that came without warning.
It started on August 1st. His dad took him to the emergency room. He was having severe pain in his back and legs.
I was a bit confused. I didn't know really what was happening, and he just told me that he wasn't feeling good.
The night before Wasion's first team practice, junior Caden Clymer unexpectedly had to be taken to Toledo Children's Hospital.
His calves were actually swelled up 4 inches larger in circumference than they are now. So he was very uncomfortable.
I just wanted to go home, honestly. I didn't really care what they did to me. I just wanted to go home.
Full of pain and uncertainty, Clymer received word that he had blood clots in his legs.
I was really sad. I was crying and I was upset because I've played football my whole life and I just want to play with my friends.
6 feet of blood clots were removed. And because
I mean, wow. Is that even the right word for that? You know, I mean, it's kind of shocking, you know, and you feel bad for that young man. And the question is why did it happen to him and why didn't it happen to other people? Now we're going to go to something right now that's quite graphic. And I want to warn you that if you have a weak stomach and don't like a little bit of blood, I want you to just turn away and just listen. In other words, or maybe close your eyes and leave your ears open, because we're going to go to a quick video right now where we're going to actually see a clot. How many of you have ever seen a clot? Well, here you go. Here's your chance. Again, very graphic. Warn you once. Last warning, 1, 2, 3. Go to the video.
This is the iliac artery. And this clot coming out of the iliac. Normally we don't see clots in the iliac, in an artery. Usually they're in veins.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm probably not going to be able to get it all. This is not normal. Look at the size of this one. The big one came out of the vein. The small one came out of the iliac artery itself.
A little bit hard to watch, but just know that, let me just put this in perspective. It is not unusual to see clots, unfortunately. Many things cause clots, such as blood sugar issues, hypertensive issues, endothelial damage issues, obesity, smoking, those kind of things.
That's exactly right, and we don't really want to face the truth when we look at how we can change things with lifestyle. If we take inflammation out of our life, like what's at the end of our fork, we've talked about how what's at the end of your fork is the most important medical decision that you make. You are creating an inflammatory condition inside of your system, and you genetically are predisposed to inflammation and even clotting disorders. You get an illness, a virus, you're bedbound, you have to have a surgery, you can put yourself at an increased risk for blood clotting. So is it 100% what we've seen in the last 2 years, it by itself? No, we have to take into consideration everything else that goes around it, from genetics, lifestyle, that's sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress management, drinking, drugging, and all the things that we're putting inside the body that could actually cause it to spin on its head and create these things called clots.
So we did a little investigation. I called a friend of mine who happened to be in the mortician business or embalming business for 40 years. He and his family have done this, and it's fascinating to understand that when I ask him the question, and I ask him this question, have you seen unusual clots such as what you saw in the video? The first answer was yes. My second question was this: have you seen those unusual clots only within the last 2 years or increasing frequency in the last 2 years or not? And the answer surprised me. He told me, no, Mark, I've been seeing those clots for 10 years. Well, of course, I was floored because I expected something different, but that's why you do your own investigation, right? The second question, or third question I asked him was, okay, I got that. You've seen them all weird. Any idea what's causing them? And he said, man, chemicals and all kinds of stuff. We don't know what all the blood does when it's exposed to those things. He goes, he said that he had seen clots as long as a table that looked like they were aliens. I asked him if he had seen some of the clots that have been pulled from, corpses. And he said, yes. He said, but he's been seeing those for 10 years again. So again, I'm not forming an opinion. I'm just giving you his observation. So we still don't know. And obviously vaccines are not a question people that are morticians ask. So, they're dead. It doesn't matter at this point. But all that said, I'm sure the to be continued phrase would be on there with this one for time to come. That was our investigation. Okay. We're going to go to the break right now. And right after the break, we're going to hear from one of our great, most awesome constitutional experts, Chris Ann Hall. Stay with us. This is not just another protein powder.
This is Kingdom Fuel, and it's so much more. The complete nutritional shake mix with our unique balance of clean protein, vitamins, minerals, and more.
So, fuel your life, your health, and enjoy peace of mind at sherwood.tv/fuel.
And I suffered a tragedy both physically and emotionally that took me down. While I was in training for the Olympics, my mother lost her job. And I wanted to go to the Olympics so bad that I stayed behind as they moved back north so that I could pursue my career in martial arts. And I literally lived in my car homeless for 365 days before I could afford a roof over my own head.
Wow. Just wow. Sweetheart. Get choked up. That's your story.
Well, it can choke one up, or you can choose to go a little further.
The God who gave us life gave us liberty at the same time. That's why our Declaration of Independence says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their governor with certain inalienable rights. So if you're going to be in this, you got to be in it to the end. And the only way you can do that is if you are filled with the Spirit, filled with truth, and filled with courage.
Hey everyone, so welcome to our, as promised, governmental education section. And I want to kind of introduce our featured presenter, featured educator, Chris Ann Hall. I met her during the gubernatorial run. She was educating people at the Constitutional Sheriff's event, which was hosted by Sheriff Richard Mack, as you know, is a deep, very dear friend of mine. So I was so impressed with her. And then I had her on a town hall as well. And look, she blew my mind with her passion, her logic, and her godly wisdom. And so I want to introduce her now. So Chris Ann, thank you for joining us. So appreciate you.
You know, it is my pleasure. It was really wonderful to get to meet you as well. And I'm very encouraged by not just simply your passion, but your feet to your passion. You know, a lot of people get involved and they get passionate and they attend the meetings, but only a small portion of those people actually get out and do things. So I just simply want to say thank you for putting feet to your passion.
Well, as our favorite book and God's word says, faith without works is completely dead. I'll add one more thing to it. It's worthless and it wasting my time. So I want to make sure we're doing stuff that it really matches up with who we are as human beings and represent well on this earth. Well, you are an attorney and you're very, very unique. And before we get into the educational hardcore stuff, you know, I think people need to hear from you the uniqueness of who is Chris Ann Hall.
Well, I think one of the things that makes what we do very unique is that, yes, I am a constitutional attorney. So the practice of constitutional law is a very refined and narrow practice. So very few people actually do it. Most people believe that lawyers are just lawyers and they do everything, but lawyers are actually like doctors. We have to specialize. There is absolutely no way a single person can know everything about every aspect of law, and it would be irresponsible for anybody to do so. And so those of us who specialize in constitutional law, it's a very narrow field because frankly, it's not where the big money is. Most of what we do is pro bono because you're defending people whose rights have been violated by government. And 9 times out of 10, that's the average person who doesn't have big, deep pockets. It's the other way around. It's the big, deep pockets that are violating the average person. And then within that refined field, we also are narrow in our focus that I am a constitutional attorney that actually understands how the Constitution is supposed to be applied. And it's really a shame that there is that narrow niche that we have, because most people would think, well, if you teach constitutional law, if you practice constitutional law, you must know the Constitution. When in reality, that is simply not so. Law schools do not teach the Constitution anymore. What they teach is constitutional law. And constitutional law does not teach the proper application of the Constitution. Constitutional law teaches that judges and lawyers know more about the Constitution than the people who wrote it, and it's irrelevant what it was intended to do. It's only relevant what the Supreme Court or the professors have divined in their mind that it will do. And so I am a strict constitutionalist. I have studied extensively what the Constitution is as a legal document and how it is to be legally applied, which requires original intent. It requires the intent of those who drafted and ratified the Constitution, because it's a contract, and we will probably get into that in greater detail later. And then further in that, I teach what I have learned from those who ratified the Constitution, not what professors and pundits say, not what politicians want the Constitution to mean, but I actually teach how it's supposed to be applied. The knowledge that the Constitution does not require interpretation. It is not written in Mandarin Chinese. We don't need to interpret it. It is a contract that is to be applied according to the terms of the contract. And we also show the many misconceptions that you will hear from the so-called experts that, well, Chris Ann has to do some interpreting because we can't possibly know what our founders, what the drafters and the ratifiers meant when they wrote the Constitution. That is actually a very bold lie. It's a falsehood. We absolutely can know, and we absolutely have a duty to know, because they wrote reams and reams and reams about the whole process, about what they meant and what the Constitution means and how it's to be applied. Once again, it's very negligent, and it is very irresponsible for American people, especially professors and judges and lawyers, to operate under the false assumption, which gives them great power and latitude, that that we can't possibly know what it all means. And so this is what I bring to the people, because we're not supposed to be ruled by government. We are not supposed to be spectators of government. We're not supposed to be simply consumers of government. We are supposed to be government. We are the governors. We are the governors over our government. And because we've been bullied out of that for so many decades, that's how we are where we are. Our hub is chrisannehall.com, and that's KRISANNEHALL.com. And from that hub, you can find our other websites, libertyfirstsociety.com, where all our Constitution American history training exists. And these are online courses, learn at your own pace. We also have mechanisms within there to help you understand your learning progress. There's testing, there's downloadable PDF textbooks that go with this. So there are so many things that we have put into place at libertyfirstsociety.com to disciple you, if you will, in your understanding of the Constitution, because we believe that with knowledge comes the inspiration to action. Most people say knowledge is power. That's not actually true. Knowledge is only power once it's activated.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear, fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
Wow. How about that with Chris Ann Hall? Man, wasn't that a firebrand?
How about that? And we're just so excited to be providing you areas in your life where you can regain hope, health, and understand freedom.
One area where big government's really begin to affect this is it's begin to control big church through the idea of a 501c3. And is that biblical? I was doing some research on that recently, and I wanted to come up with some answers. And this is what I got. And this is just straight up Mark and Michelle research. First of all, the 501c, you guys know what that is. That's that nonprofit status where when you give, you get a tax break. In other words, it's considered a reduction of your taxable income. And then the persons who receive that, they don't have to pay taxes because they're nonprofit status, okay? It did not, the 501c3 or anything like it did not exist in the New Testament at all. Jesus talked about in Matthew 22:21 and even Matthew 17:24-27 about we should begin to pay the government what is owed through taxes. Again, he also talked about overtaxation, but we're to pay the government what we really owe. Certainly, when John the Baptist taught about repentance to tax collectors, he was saying, collect no more than you're authorized to take. Bottom line, benefits, I suppose it can give people a tax break. Liabilities, potentially, it can cause churches not to speak truth, to hold back from truth for fear of losing their 501c3 status. And I should say, if people are giving to get a tax break, perhaps it's not worth giving at all because you're giving the wrong reasons. Up next on Furthermore, we're going to talk about, can type 2 diabetes be reversed? Man, what's the answer?
YES. Join us next time.
Absolutely.
Here on Furthermore.
We'll look forward to seeing you next time. How can type 2 diabetes be reversed? We'll show you next time on Furthermore. Can't wait to see you.
And it may just all start with what's at the end of your fork.
See you next time.
The elite have always kept us in ignorance about the discoveries of geniuses such as Tesla, who was far advanced in the field of clean, free energy, or Dr. Rife, who used radio waves to cure at least 16 terminal cancer patients before he, just as Tesla, died in a suspicious manner. Or Henry Ford, who in 1941 had already made a car out of bioplastic that proved stronger than steel. The elite have hidden countless such techniques from us because they form a threat to their monopolies in every industry. These were techniques that would have given us freedoms and put the elite's power at risk, which is based on our fear and dependence on their projects. These are not conspiracy theories, but facts. What I am saying is that a world of new possibilities is opening up for all of us, where there is no poverty, no pollution, diseases, or wars, and in which governments work for the welfare of the people rather than the other way around. Countless ailments that provide the pharma industry with hundreds of billions of dollars will be cured. No one will have to work their ass off to live a dignified life. People will no longer live in fear because of the lies of the media, the pharma industry, the climate lobbies, and politicians. It's all on the horizon, but we have to go through the storm first and recognize what the real problem is in our society. I want to thank you for listening to me, and I hope someday, in freedom, together we'll reflect back on this unique moment in history. There is still so much to tell, but we will save the rest for later.
This is not just another protein powder.
This is Kingdom Fuel, and it's so much more. The complete nutritional shake mix with our unique balance of clean protein, vitamins, minerals, and more.
So, fuel your life, your health, and enjoy peace of mind at sherwood.tv/fuel.